Hey everybody, this is Dave Wellman with Exit Realty Fireside here in Davenport. I'm putting out my video for the week on what to look for, 5 things to look for when you're looking to downsize to vintage. I want to help you understand the process of looking for a vintage home. Again, we're in a beautiful vintage neighborhood. You can see the homes behind me that indicate size and shape. Single stories, 2 stories are all available. But let's look at 5 things really that you have to look at when you're considering a vintage home. Now, to kind of give us an idea of what I'm talking about when I say vintage, vintage home to me is something that was built turn of the century all the way up until the late 1950s, maybe the early 1960s. Those houses are the ones I'm talking about when I'm talking about downsizing to vintage. The Quad Cities is full of those. In the Davenport side, the Iowa side where I work, there are beautiful neighborhoods all over the city that have these amazing vintage properties. So if you're in the process of considering downsizing from your raised your family home down to a smaller property that you and your family can take care of and enjoy for your senior years, then we need to look at some things that are important for you in order to be able to successfully downsize to vintage. First of all, we need to consider the foundation. And again, this has to do as much with age as it does with the construction of the home. Older houses, the ones that were built turn of the century, usually have a limestone foundation. Now, some of those have been added to. Foundations have been put in underneath the limestone. Concrete has been poured. But you need to look at those limestone foundations. Those are semi-porous, the limestone is. And so there is a possibility that you either would have or will have water to some degree seeping into the basement area. Most of the houses that I've been in, and not all, but most of the houses that I've been in that have limestone basements are raw basement. They're not finished because there's always a little seepage when it rains, or it can even be worse. There can be a crack in the foundation, and there can be a lot of water. So consider the foundation, whether it's limestone or whether it's a cinder block foundation, or whether it's concrete. Make sure that you look at the foundation of the house for its structural maintenance, to maintain the structure of the house, whether there's been any settling or cracking or anything as a result of that settling. So pay attention to the foundation. Look for, again, settling, water, the material that the foundation is built from, to give you a great understanding of the particular house that you're looking for, and what some repair work that might need to be done over the course of your ownership. Look at the mechanicals of the house. The electrical in the older houses still have some attic spaces and even some basement spaces I've been in recently. I have knob and tube wiring. That's aluminum wiring with a not a great insulation, and the tendency with knob and tube is for it to get hot and cause the possibility of a fire. And so you need to make sure that the electricity in your vintage home has been updated, and make sure that it is working in a good and safe way. Also, the water systems. And some of the old vintage properties, they used cast iron piping and lead-based solder. Those things are issues that you might have to deal with, or you might think about when you're looking at these houses. What kind of water, where are the pipes, where they come in, and what kind of piping material is being used throughout the house. That can also be an issue. Obviously, you want to look at the furnace. The older homes for the most part, have had replacement furnaces, but every once in a while, you're going to find one of the old, what we called octopus furnaces, that were coal-fired to begin with and changed to natural gas. And the pipes that go out from them were often insulated with an asbestos insulation. So you want to make sure that you know what's in the basement, you know what kind of furnace you're getting into. And if it's a beautiful house, if it's in the right neighborhood and it has the wrong kind of furnace, you need to know what it's going to cost to remove the one that's there and replace it with something that is newer and more efficient for you. Also consider the windows and doors. One of the cool things about buying a vintage property are the way the design of the windows and the doors are. The front doors in particular, a lot of them are solid wood doors, and they have arched entryways and those kinds of things. You want to make sure that you know the functionality of all the windows. The older houses, I had a house that sold just recently, and it had the lead weighted windows, and some of the windows didn't work, and so we had to take had to have the windows repaired, and they take the casing off, and then they redo the lead weights to make the windows stay up. I'm sorry, there's a bug right there. So we make sure that there are the windows all work, and they work well, and they either have storms, they have screens for the summertime, and they have storm windows for the for the winter time. Most old vintage homes that have not had replacement windows are single pane windows, and so you need to think about that, and you need to consider the functionality of the windows, the screens in the storms, and what the replacement of those windows might be if you decided that that's what you were going to do. Another thing that you have to consider, and this is something that happened in the post-World War II era, late 1940s into about the middle, maybe all the way to 1960, was that the tile or the sewer connection from the house to the main sewer lines, what was used in the construction, that construction period, was a thing called Orangeburg tile. Now, Orangeburg tile basically is cardboard covered by a terracotta-like substance, and the problem is that they break down, and when they break down, they simply collapse. So you always want to ask that question about Orangeburg tile. It is so important that it's asked on our disclosure form for real estate if you have or know that you have Orangeburg tile, because it can cause a lot of problems if it's there and it hasn't been dealt with or hasn't been taken care of. So we want to make sure that we're asking when we're looking at vintage properties about the possibility of there being Orangeburg sewer tile that goes from the house out to the street, and make sure that it's been taken care of if it was there at the time of construction. And then there's a bonus, and it's actually a sixth idea, but there's a bonus. We live in a world today where we're particularly concerned about radon gas. Radon gas is odorless. It comes up from the ground. It is the off-gassing that occurs naturally, and Iowa happens to have a high, in most cases, a high radon gas level. So just a bonus thought, when you're looking at any house to buy, you need to consider the subject of radon. But also in the old vintage homes where the foundations were laid and dug a lot of times deep, and we need to consider the possibility of radon. So that's a bonus sixth thought. So if you're looking to downsize to a vintage home, make sure you pay attention to the foundation, the mechanics, the windows and doors, the possibility of Orangeburg tile, and never forget the fact that radon is an odorless, tasteless gas that's naturally occurring, but has been, is considered, let me say, well, don't say this exactly right, has been determined to be or considered to be the possibility of a carcinogenic. So we want to make sure that we're covering all our bases when we do that. So these are the 5 things, and the bonus 6th that I think are important if you're going to look to downsize into one of these beautiful vintage homes in a great neighborhood in the Iowa Quad Cities. So remember, Dave Wellman with Exit Realty Fireside. If you'd like to shoot me a message or an email or give me a call, I'm available to talk to you about downsizing your home into a beautiful vintage. Let me know. I appreciate it. Have a great day. Bye-bye.